All right, good afternoon. It looks like we're ready to get started. Welcome. My understanding is you've used the new Zoom webinar format before, but welcome if you have not yet used our relatively new format here at the AHO. It is February 11th, 2026. I'm Nicole Kinsey, presiding hearing officer for the Administrative Hearings Office of the State Water Resources Control Board, and this is a status conference on the pending petitions for change for 10 licenses. I won't go ahead and read all the numbers, but 10 licenses held by Santa Clara Valley Water District. This status conference is being conducted by Zoom webinar and is also being broadcast live on the AHO YouTube channel. The audio and video of this conference are being recorded, and we will post files of this recording in the FTP folder for this proceeding. The YouTube recording will also be available on the AHO YouTube webpage. If you have any technical difficulties today, which hopefully you will not, please go ahead and send us an email at the AHO email inbox. We will be monitoring that inbox as we have our status conference today. I'm going to go ahead and go through appearances and elevate those of you who will be speaking today to panelist status now as we get started. So I will go ahead and go through the various parties we have. When I call the party, if you would please raise your Zoom hand if you're associated with that party, and then I will ask the hearing team to elevate you to panelist status, at which point you will then be able to activate your audio and your video, and you may come on camera and enter your appearance. And then once you have entered your appearance, you will remain in panelist status for the rest of our conference today, and then you can control your own audio or video as you see fit. So I will go ahead and get started with Santa Clara Valley Water District. If I can please have those representatives raise your Zoom hand. And I will ask the hearing team to go ahead and admit Nathan Metcalf. Do we have Mr. Metcalf here? Hold on, I'm going to admit I have a new computer and all of my settings are different than they used to be. Ah, found it. Good morning. No, good afternoon, Mr. Metcalf, please.
Good afternoon.
And you're going to tell me how to pronounce it. Is it Schwind? Schwind?
Very good.
What do we do with the G?
But my dad says Geschwind and I say Geschwind.
Good. It's like Kinsey. I say ignore the U, which is not correct. Thank you and welcome. And I will look to the hearing team again. Do we have all our representatives from Santa Clara Valley Water District? We do, looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And if we can please elevate Stephen Piccini and Julie Coombs. Good afternoon, Mr. Piccini. You're welcome to come on camera and introduce yourself.
Oops. Good afternoon. Stephen Piccini, Staff Counsel for California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you. Welcome. And if we can please elevate Julie Coombs. And if you're you may have to click on a I agree to be elevated to panelist button when we elevate you. Well, we may turn back to Ms. Coombs here. Oh, here we are. Ms. Coombs, you should have access to video and audio, and you're welcome to come on camera.
So I'm assuming I'm Craig Waitman, not Julie Coombs, but I wasn't sure if maybe like she forwarded me the invitation or not. So maybe that's what got messed up.
And Mr. Waitman, are you with the Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And Ms. Coombs, I see you're separately on. Are you able to come on audio and video? And we can come back to you once you, if you're having technical problems, please email us and we can try to help. Mr. Metcalf, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to get into any technical issues, but John Bourgeois from Santa Clara Valley Water District had raised his hand, and he could be lifted up to the panel if you want to get into any sort of, if it's going to get beyond legal.
I don't know that we will, but we might as well. I think the word I was using is elevate. It's a nice word.
Elevate. Sure.
We can please.
Thank you very much.
Elevate John Bourgeois. For a while I was using promote, but elevate seems. It's a good one. And Mr. Bourgeois, you're welcome to come on camera and introduce yourself.
Great. Thank you. John Bourgeois, Deputy Officer here at Valley Water. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I will next turn to San Francisco Baykeeper. And if we could please elevate Mr. Busher and Mr. Cooper. And Mr. Busher, you're welcome to come on camera and off mute.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kinsey. Eric Busher for San Francisco Baykeeper. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And Mr. Cooper.
Yes, this is Daniel Cooper, also for San Francisco Baykeeper.
Thank you. Welcome. Next on my list is Cal Trout. Do I have representatives from Cal Trout and maybe associated parties? If we can please elevate Mr. Roos Collins and Julie Gatbean. Good afternoon, Mr. Roos Collins. You're welcome to come on camera and off mute.
Good afternoon. Richard Roos Collins for California Trout.
Thank you. And Ms. Gatbean.
Good afternoon, Julie Gantenbein, outside counsel for Cal Trout as well.
Gantenbein, I apologize. I have that written correctly here.
No worries.
And it looks like we need a spell check. I'll look to the team. We possibly need a spell check in the Zoom. All right, I will look to, I also have down as a party, Northern California Council of Fly Fishers International. Do we have anyone explicitly with that group? Mr. Rockwell, if we could please elevate Mr. Rockwell.
Hello, I'm Mark Rockwell. I'm the Northern California Council Fly Fishers International Vice President of Conservation.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Rockwell. And then I will look to others in the attendee room. Are there others who plan to speak today who should be elevated? Please raise your hand and we will bring you up to join us here. And you're welcome to listen in. You also can decide later, if you raise your hand, I will elevate you as we go through this process. All right, then we will proceed with those of us who I have here on camera, and then to the attendees, you're welcome, as I said, to raise your hand as we move through some of these issues. Thank you for joining me today on relatively short notice. Just as a matter of background, you may have already gathered, but Hearing Officer Bivens, who was previously presiding over this hearing, has left state service. So I am here in his stead to conduct the status conference today, and we'll talk through what remains outstanding and what we need to do, and then I'll decide whether I continue to remain in this role or whether we assign another hearing officer to shepherd this through to a final result. But as I understand, we are well along towards a final result. I did want to congratulate you on your settlement, and I extend my appreciation to Mr. Sepos for helping to reach that result. So that is a happy conclusion, but from here, as I understand, we have a little bit of work to do, both on our end here at the State Water Board, and I will be asking for your assistance. I did read the submittals of January 16th, and that was quite helpful. I wanted, as I laid out in the notice of status conference, I wanted to talk through certainly the request for an informal hearing to make sure I understand the nature of that request and what we are trying to accomplish with that. I think it probably is a good idea, but I wanted to hear from you on that. And then talk about our next steps to move this through. And then associated with that, dates or deadlines that make sense. I think most efficient would be, instead of me sitting and you don't know what I'm thinking, I thought I would lay out what, based on what I had reviewed and what I understood from the submittal of January 16th, what I was thinking about a path forward. And then I would look to all of the parties to comment on what you had envisioned, if that's different, whether there's a better way to do this more efficiently, and what you may propose. So absent any hands on that, I will go ahead and proceed with what I was thinking may make sense and what I was looking at when I reviewed this matter. All right. So first, as I understand, we have a settlement agreement, which is excellent. We have a need for some kind of final order that would come from the State Water Board approving the change petitions that are pending. And we also have a need for amended licenses that would come out of this proceeding. And we need a process from getting from here to there. And the settlement agreement addresses many of the issues, but there are, of course, other statutory requirements for approving a state change petition that would need to be addressed in any order. I think it makes sense in terms of workload, and you can tell me where you are, but in terms of efficiency and workload for Santa Clara Valley Water District to, in the first instance, prepare a proposed draft order for the AHO's review. I think that would be quite helpful to us and move this along more quickly. And the same is true with preparing amended licenses. I know you had submitted proposed permit terms, but there are a number, as I understand, a number of changes and issues in the, I shouldn't say issues, but changes requested to the licenses. There also may be some updating to the licenses that need to be done. And I think having at least a draft amended license for each of those 10 licenses on the table would be quite helpful to us. In order to do that, I think it would be most efficient for the AHO to first give you some guidance on that. So step one, I did not go in order here, but step one, I think, would be direction from the AHO about what the State Water Board views as the legal requirements that would need to be met. It would look something like a hearing notice with hearing issues. These are the items that we need to tick off in this order, and that could help organize us. And I thought that might be helpful to give that guidance and for us to identify, at least from an initial review, whether there are evidentiary issues or others that need to be addressed. One example is, as I understand, there are 1707, Water Code 1707 elements to these change petitions, and those require slightly different, they're similar, but slightly different findings, I think. So that we just want to make sure that all of those are identified. So when you're preparing a draft order, we hit all of the points that would need to be in the final order. So I was thinking of that as an initial work product, which the AHO should be able to turn around fairly quickly, and then you would be in the position of preparing a draft order and amended licenses. At some point in that process, I'm not sure when exactly, I want to talk about timing, but it may make sense to either have a status conference or what you have called an informal hearing, or possibly both. I don't know if we need more than one, because we do have the ex parte rules, which I think will continue to apply unless we have an explicit waiver from all the parties. So we do have this, where staff of the AHO and the district should not be directly talking to each other without everyone being CC'd on an email, that type of thing. So it may be helpful to have periodic status conferences so we can just have a conversation. I'm open to that, especially if they're streamlined. But we can think about the most efficient way to deal with the small issues that, if you're working with the division, would be normally handled through a quick phone call. Once we received a draft order and draft amended licenses, then the AHO would review that. As I mentioned, maybe it seems to me that the informal hearing process, depending on what you're thinking that would consist of, should come possibly after the draft order and amended licenses are submitted, but early on in that process, so we have that information, we have that before the AHO while we are reviewing. the draft order and making updates or revisions. And once we're through with that, I think it makes sense for the AHO to recirculate the draft, right? So then all of you can look at it. Yes, this makes sense. These amended licenses are what we expected. And you can make any comments on those. At that point, I think, and this is based on signals from reviewing your settlement agreement, I think at that point, once you've made comments and we've gone through whatever needs to be done or updates to those drafts, that would be the time for protest resolution or protest withdrawal. So we'd have documentation of that, and that would be all buttoned down. And then we at the AHO would send a final package, a final proposed order and set of amended licenses to most likely the deputy director for water rights for consideration and signature. But that would be a final, as I'm envisioning it, almost a ministerial step, because we would be able to coordinate. The final package shouldn't be a surprise. You would have all seen it, commented on it, and we would have that, and then we would get the signature. So with that general framework and understanding that we may need status conferences and/or this informal hearing if you're planning to submit evidence, and I'd like to hear more about that and what you think that might be, that's what I was thinking about as a process that would occur over the next months. We don't need to draw it out. I think we can do it fairly efficiently, but it will take a little time and a little legwork. With that, I think I will turn first to Valley Water District. I don't know if Mr. Metcalf, if you're the right person, do you have, help me from there. You're welcome to say, no, we have a far better proposal, let's do it this way, or this is what we're thinking. Do you have reactions or would like to chime in on this?
And that process sounds good to me. Obviously, we haven't written orders or amended licenses, so whatever guidance you have will help us draft those. But otherwise, I think the process is fine. Not sure how long it will take. And the only reason, just speaking for me, although we just sort of coordinate, is for an informal hearing, it's just a process to show that it, that we've reached resolution and that the licenses are amended. So if there's another mechanism to do that, we certainly don't think we needed a full evidentiary hearing. So it just kind of looked like an informal hearing was the best mechanism to sort of document that everything is final.
Is there anything, I think we had flagged some things like updated maps, which I will ask you about in a moment, but things like that. Was there any reason that you were planning to submit any kind of what I would call evidence or anything like that we would need to admit into an evidentiary record formally?
I don't think so. I think, well, the fish habitat restoration plan will be incorporated into the water rights. So I think that everything that we had talked about documenting should be covered. At least my initial thoughts would be covered through the order and the amended water rights.
Okay. That makes sense to me. That's what I was thinking too, but I wanted to see if there was every proceeding is special in its own way. So I was missing something. And for your information, I did ask the team, and we're going to look around. I'd like to, as you're preparing these draft documents, I was going to send an example of what we think is a fine looking order on a change petition. So hopefully that will be helpful as a
Yes,
model.
that would be great. Thank you.
Everyone is different, but that might help. Then I will look next to Mr. Puccini. Do you have any comments on where we're headed next?
No, I think you made a very clear roadmap, and that sounds like a fine approach from our perspective.
Right. Then I will turn to Cal Trout, Mr. Roos Collins, or Mr. Cooper. Oh, no, I mixed you up. I'm sorry. I will turn to Cal Trout first, Mr. Roos Collins. Hearings.
Cal Trout supports the approach you described.
Okay. Mr. Busher or Mr. Cooper or both?
No, your approach sounds good, and it sounds like it will be much faster than some of the other more drawn out proceedings. So I appreciate that.
That's the plan. Would anyone else like to chime in on this? Do any of you have an opinion about whether what I'd be inclined to do is include in this, I don't know what we'll call it, notice. It's some kind of notice with issues to be addressed in a draft order. I'll probably lay out a date for a status conference a month, well, maybe 2 months or so in the future, just so we hold it. And then if we need it, we can use it. If we don't need it, we'll take it off calendar. That's my inclination, is just to put something on the calendar for that. If there are any I'll take the time to look at it based on when we get this notice out and when I would be expecting a draft order. I think I'd set it for after the draft order and amended licenses come in. So we'll see what the timing on that exactly is, but probably, what is it, February? Probably April sometime. And then I had a couple of other questions that are relatively minor, but I thought we might as well talk about it. So this is a minor point, but just to help me. I noticed in reviewing the submittals, the settlement agreement, the attachments, I want to make sure I understand the different documents here. The settlement agreement refers to a fish habitat restoration plan, and then the attachment, I think it's attachment 2, is the implementation plan for the fish habitat restoration program. Maybe I will look to you, Mr. Metcalf. Is that the same thing? Is it the?
It is. It's the same thing.
Okay. And then there's also a adaptive management plan. Is that separate, or is that something that's incorporated into the FHRP?
It's incorporated into the FHRP.
Okay. And then, as I understood, and I'll continue to look to you, Mr. Metcalf, since I have you on the hot seat, but others, feel free to raise your hand if you have a different opinion about this. My understanding from reviewing the proposed license terms and the FHRP is that right now, there are some elements that are intended to be included as requirements under the water right license, and some elements that are not intended to affect compliance with the water right. Is that an accurate understanding?
The fish habitat restoration plan is incorporated into the water right license. There are elements of the fish habitat restoration plans that I think are more compliance oriented, and there's others that are more future planning oriented. But in totality, the anticipation is the fish habitat restoration plan will be incorporated into the water right license.
Okay. And then in the future, if the fish habitat restoration plan is updated, I'm just stating what may be the obvious, the updated version would be incorporated. Do you have an opinion either by reference or by a separate proceeding? Or is that laid out in the proposal?
The process is laid out. It will be submitted. We have a 5-year plan to update, which will be submitted to the deputy director.
Okay. Thank you. And then do you know, Mr. Metcalf, if Valley Water has submitted updated maps associated with the petitions? My understanding is there was a back and forth with the division maybe before this was referred over.
Yes, yeah, and I'd have to go back and look at that myself too. I know the staff at Valley Water that was heading that effort has moved on, but yeah, there was quite a bit of back and forth. There was some adjusting of points of diversion and updated maps to reflect that.
Thank you. I think the recipient of that, or the other half of that conversation at the Division of Water Rights, has also moved on to retirement. So that's just why I asked you the question, but we'll get to the bottom of that. And then I wanted to, and this is a flag, and I'll flag it in this document that's coming, but I think one of the elements here is going to be, that is not, as far as I know, in dispute, is going to be accounting procedures for the underground storage piece. These licenses are very interesting. I think they're early examples of underground storage because Valley Water has been on the, or was on the cutting, maybe you're still on the cutting edge. Do you have I don't know if you're prepared to talk about this now, but do you have accounting procedures in place that you think the licenses could refer to? I don't know, through the alternative, whether your Sigma compliance program, there's a accounting methodology that we can bring in here, or I can just flag, you don't have to necessarily answer. You can say, let me get back to you. But I'm going to flag that as something we'll probably ask about in how to deal with that in the license in terms of accounting, because it is something the division is looking at in incorporating more explicit accounting for underground storage projects.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I did see that Mr. Bourgeois had his hand up earlier, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but he may have more information. And we still may need to get back to you on it, but he probably is more up to speed on it than I am.
I'll have to get back to you on that point. I'd raised my hand earlier just to let you know that it was my understanding before our staff left that they did get the revised maps over, but we will indeed confirm that. Since we both had staff turnover, we should probably just resubmit anyway to keep it clean. But yeah, I don't know the answer to the accounting question, but we will be prepared to answer that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the maps. I know I was talking with one of the staff. I understand those maps have to be submitted. Like, I think it was not a joke, on linen, some special special
Yes.
textile. Yes, indeed. That may be some updating on our end at the State Water Board. I don't think I have other questions. I'm quickly going to look to my team to see if we have anything else we wanted to ask, but I will look to you, all of you. Is there anything else we should discuss today before I think the next item is that the AHO owes all of you a notice which would lay out the issues we see to be addressed in this draft, would lay out deadlines, and maybe I'll ask that, Mr. Metcalf. I was thinking 30 days. You're welcome to ask more. It's your license. You know, the district's license is at issue here and getting those moving. So if you want more time than 30 days, that's fine with me. I want to keep this process rolling, but that's what I was thinking for a turnaround from the date of the notice.
I mean, I don't have much of a reference point, but
yep.
I mean, I hate to tell you 30 days and then we end up taking longer. So I'm inclined to ask for more time, but I don't really have a reference point in which to base the request.
Maybe what I will do is say 30 days, and if you need more time, please, in a timely manner, ask for more time.
That's fine.
But I find deadlines help, you know, as we all know, deadlines help keep things moving, so.
Yes.
Just to raise the issue of the underground storage a little bit. I think, you know, these reservoirs and the releases, you know, are either into percolation ponds or just downstream. My understanding is 100% of the beneficial use essentially comes from the underground percolation. There's no sort of direct diversion out of the waterways for the most part to, you know, agriculture, M&I. I think it's all 100% really designed to percolate. I'm just worried about getting down a rabbit hole in terms of how this is accounted for, because it's not, you know, our little system. We don't have a bunch of surface diversions, underground diversions. We just really have or other diverters along these creeks. So it's a pretty simple system. You know, it's not like current groundwater banking and there's surface water and there's banked and there's, you know, everything moving around. And I'm just kind of hoping you guys don't make it too hard on us.
And I completely understand your point, and the point is well taken about it being somewhat of a closed system, if you will, that it's Valley Water is managing, as I understand, managing kind of all ends of the system here. So I appreciate that. And I will try to give some guidance on what we may be looking for, and I will keep your caveat in mind, certainly. Thank you. The other flag, and this came up as I previously mentioned in terms of compliance. I think as Valley Water is thinking about the proposed permit terms, when I looked at the list, I wondered not permit terms, license terms. I wondered if all of those license terms are really appropriate for inclusion in the license, just because I want to make sure, and I think the State Water Board has an interest of making sure that's what is in the license is an enforceable compliance term. I understand incorporating in the fish habitat restoration plan by reference. I think that makes sense, but I would ask if you really look back at those proposed license terms and make sure they're crafted in your mind in a way that belongs in a water right license. And that may take a little back and forth, and we will engage with that as we prepare these amended licenses. I certainly don't want to undermine in any way the agreement you have all come to, that I very much appreciate that. But I also want to make sure that what ends up in the license is an appropriate term for a license as well. So I would ask to consider that, and we will also consider that. And if I can give any additional guidance in this notice, I certainly will do so we can be as efficient as possible. Is there anything else we should discuss before we close for today?
This is Mr. Cooper for Baykeeper, and I would just ask that in setting the schedule in your proposed order and so on, that you keep in mind that this was a settlement by a bunch of folks, and I think so. It's not just Valley Water's water right that's driving this; it's also the settlement, and we're in a big hurry. All of us want to go as quickly as possible to finish this. So as you calendar and as you're accommodating Mr. Metcalf's schedule, consider also that the rest of the parties, I think, want to come to finality here and finish this as quickly as feasible. So just in consideration.
No, that's quite helpful. I don't think I fully appreciated that some of the parties were quite interested in seeing this finalized. I mean, I'm sure you are, but that there is a sense of urgency here. So I very much appreciate that, and that is noted. Thank you. Are there other things before we close? Mr. Roos Collins, please.
Thank you. With respect to the proposed conditions in Appendix 1, those were specifically negotiated for the purpose of incorporation into the licenses. Do you or your staff have concerns about any of the specifics in those conditions?
We may, but this may be something we can work through. In some ways it was, for example, I think, let me pull it up for myself. There is just as an example, condition 1A, which just describes goals. But I had this question of, does that really belong in a license term? I can understand why you lay it out, but are not the goals already incorporated into the fish habitat restoration plan? It was just one of those thinking through, but I don't want to undermine the substance of the agreement, which you have carefully worked out. So that's the balancing that I was here is, does this belong in a license? Is it already captured in the plan? Does it do anything confusing here in terms of when the deputy director, another thing I'm aware of, for example, let me see if I can scroll down here. License term, the one that has all of the biological objectives. D2 lists a lot of scientific studies, as I understand, and published articles with which these objectives shall be consistent. And that made me think, well, is the deputy director then going to be tasked with deciding whether the update is in fact consistent with all of these biological objectives laid out in the studies? And then is that going to be an element of discord among the parties? I don't know. I mean, it seemed like something that's as between the parties and maybe not a responsibility of the deputy director of the Division of Water Rights. That's something that I was trying to be aware of what is it that the deputy director would be approving in the update in terms of what is laid out here. Because if that is in the license term, it looks to me like maybe the deputy director is approving it, which seems complicated.
Proposed condition number 2 describes the criteria for the deputy director's review of a future update. So the deputy director would review that update for consistency with the criteria. That would be his or her judgment. So there's no freestanding enforcement of the condition, the criteria. Instead, they really are the basis for the future review.
But your vision would be that the deputy director would read these studies and decide, or her staff, or his or her staff, would read these studies and decide whether the update is consistent with them?
Yes.
Okay.
And ideally, Ms. Kinsey, this is Eric Busher for Baykeeper. You know, that process for the update and the detail that went into that condition, as well as into the FHRP that reflects the similar process, the same process, is designed to be a collaborative one among the parties. And right, hopefully we get to the end of that and everybody says, this got done right, and here's the result for the deputy director's approval. And there's dispute resolution built into the FHRP if that gets derailed at some point during that process. But it was important to the parties that the process and the criteria, as Mr. Roos Collins described them, be part of the license and ultimately be enforceable, so that does happen, and it happens on the schedule that we all agreed to and complies with the criteria that we all agreed to.
Understood. And part of that dispute resolution, as I saw, was a return to the administrative hearings office, if that's where you ended up at the end. Is that?
That's what we had agreed to. We thought that was a more sensible way to approach this. If we're going to come forward and say, here's the evidence for each side as to why we did or did not meet those criteria, that the AHO would be the best place to review that in the first instance to make a recommendation to the state board.
Okay. Thank you. And this is a very helpful conversation, so thank you. And what I plan to do is think about this. I mean, in light of what you were reflecting to me is that these are carefully crafted license terms that were hammered out through mediation and each of them are significant. And as I said, I do not want to upend the apple cart at this point in the proceeding. So I will look at them through that lens, and we will go from there. Are there any other comments? I'm again making a last call before we close. Then with that, I want to thank all of you for your time. I very much appreciate it on short notice and for moving this forward. And you will be hearing from the AHO quite soon, and we will proceed as planned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.